I'm Bronwyn Hill. I am a figurative painter, figurative realism. Ultimately, I like colour, and I don't know, sometimes I want to do justice to every little change in tone and change in colour, and it's almost like I don't know. If I didn't have that, I don't know if I'd paint as realistically as I do, if that makes sense. It probably doesn't need to be as detailed as it does, but there's also kind of like that labour of love, I guess, as well. If I'm trying to portray something that means a lot to me, I'm going to want to give it all that attention. I do think that my work ultimately is processing whatever's going on in my mind, and that could be a personal event or, you know, experience or something like that, or it can be, I guess, just something that I'm appreciating or something that I just want to kind of understand as well, and I need to delve into it and stare at it for 400 hours to to make sense of it. The diary aspect is definitely that resonates with me. I guess I find I don't know if it's really sadness, but I find that emotion quite beautiful. I think there's a lot to learn about yourself when you have a lot of time on your own and you can sit through and process thoughts. And I think I've always been a bit kind of a baseline melancholy anyway. I mean, you know, obviously there's ups and downs, but I think from a general perspective, I think I'm just usually at that kind of quiet, still, pensive, kind of somewhat sad, but not negatively sad, just, I don't know, it's one of those emotions it's hard to explain unless you've experienced it.
Yeah.
I like my own space though as well. I do I'd need to. I spend work and live alone at the moment, so you need to be able to handle your own company. So this show, I think I got to a point where I just wanted to focus on things that I find beautiful more than the personal topics, which there are still a couple of, you know, personal bits in this show, but for the majority of the work, it's themes and subject matter that I've, you know, explored before, with the figures and the shadows and the light and the insects and the sheets and things like that. That's the all subject matter that I've been familiar with over the last couple of years, but this one in particular, I just wanted to focus on beauty, I think. So most previous work, I mean, I do work in kind of different series anyway. Like there's the personal work, which is kind of like that Dear Diary kind of aspect, where it's processing thoughts or experiences, processing whatever's circling my mind, whether that's, you know, whether it's been relationship things or if it's been, you know, like decision on not having children or topics like that. Anything that's kind of encircling, or aging even, turning 30, being over 30 now. Those kind of topics. Anything that's kind of, you know, circles my head. If it's circling for too long, I end up painting it to get it out. But then there's also the shadowed work, which has always been more about my connection to nature, or my kind of longing to just be outside and be in the sun, and how much I kind of miss that period of my life in my youth where I was going to the beach every weekend with friends. We were going to the waterfalls, jumping off waterfalls. We were always out. And I missed that. I missed that lack of responsibility. I've always been quite a melancholic person, and I think that's obviously translated quite directly into my work and what I choose to paint and how I choose to paint it. And the figures, you know, there's almost always a figure on their own, and they're always kind of in that. I like painting that still moment, that moment where you're just kind of lost in thought or lost in that processing. Happiness to me sounds more of just like, you know, like an anger, like it's a quick feeling, like a high. Appreciative would be the word that I would choose to associate with this work, whether that's for, you know, appreciating feelings that I've gone through or emotions I've gone through, or appreciating colour, appreciating light. So all the works for this show, they're not really consistent in theme or in subject matter. Before I'd even decided on what I wanted to paint this year, I'd already decided I wanted to focus on yellow. Colour is kind of one of the base interests that I have in terms of art, where our eyes see and interpret, you know, reflected colour, what our eyes naturally kind of, like our eyes do a lot of kind of autocorrect, or a lot of they balance out things, and I don't know, I've always been drawn to kind of pushing past that and seeing what colour is actually there and not what my eye is telling me. So things like with the shadows, how you'll get the blue bouncing off the top of a shoulder from the sky, or you'll get the green bouncing off from the grass underneath, but if you remove the environment, your eye suddenly sees that green and sees that blue, and you don't kind of understand it. But if you see it in the environment, it will just make sense. Like, you won't even pick up on it. It'll be corrected for you, and you'll see the skin tone as it actually is, as you think it is, rather than as it actually is. Because it's been a big year for me, I did really want to kind of revisit some of those base interests that I had, and yellow is a colour that I find particularly challenging, I guess, because it's a colour that is so rich and powerful when you're mixing. If you mix the tiniest little bit of Indian yellow, the whole thing is stained and changed so quickly and so drastically. But at the same time, yellow muddies really quickly and easily, and it also dulls really easily. As soon as you add white to a yellow, it kills that vibrancy. And then in the shadows of yellow, you've got purples and greens and things like that, which can easily make, a yellow sheet, for example, it can easily make it look dirty instead of just naturally shadowed. So there was a lot of challenges in that night, and I really wanted to get a handle on that. But at the same time, as it being challenging, it's also a very energizing colour to look at. I wanted this to be work that I guess just things that I wanted to paint instead of things that I felt like I needed to paint to get off my chest. Everything I do has meaning to me. There's symbolism through my work quite often, which is not always obvious, but to me it is. And I like the idea that for somebody else they might respond or not to it however they like. It's really quite personal work for me, so there's no, I'm not putting out social commentary or concepts that I hold beliefs to and want to try to expect anybody to follow or to listen to in that regard. It's more just me putting myself out there, I guess.